Clemente Bonilla, head baseball coach here, and this is the CVCS Baseball Podcast. I am super excited today with our third episode ever. We have a special guest, Skip Schumaker. This is Skip Schumaker, National League Manager of the Year 2023. This is Skip Schumaker, 11 years of Major League Baseball, and collegiately at UCSB, and then a local boy, a standout at Aliso Niguel High School. He's an Orange County guy. Just so excited to have you here, Skip. Thanks for being part of our podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and you should be my agent. The way you just promoted me right there sounds pretty good. Thanks.
Well, hey, I want to jump right into this. I know we'll get to the old high school stuff. Skip's a graduate of the same year as me when I was at El Toro High School, and he was just down the street. And we had some fun times and battles and memories to talk about there. But I want to really kind of work backwards from, you were just recently a major league manager. You've been a bench coach, a first base coach, and then also you've played 11 big league seasons. Kind of how has that journey been from transitioning to being a player, then all of a sudden being on the other side of it?
Well, when you're in high school or in college, even in professional baseball, in the minor league side, your dream is to become a major leaguer, a major league player, not a major league coach or a major league manager. So it was never in my mind or hope that one day I could be, a Tony La Russa one day. I just wanted to try to survive and be a player for as long as I can in the major leagues. However, there's an expiration date for everybody, and there has to be a plan after you're done playing. I retired at 35 years old in 2016 out of spring training. I told my manager then if I ground out one more time, I'm done. He thought I was done for the day, but I meant done for my career because the guy on the mound was so bad. If I couldn't get a hit off him, then that meant baseball tells you when it's over typically. So I come home. My wife and we go get two white labs. That was my retirement gift. Because she told me I'm not your hobby, so figure out something because I have some issues just sitting. And then a week later, I was asked to be part of the Padre organization and unretired. So my wife was at the house with two young kids and two labs, and I jumped back in. So not super exciting on her end, but exciting for me in my next chapter in this thing.
Well, we'll get into the family life and stuff and just how that what a special woman to be married to a professional baseball player, but we'll get back to that. So now you're coaching with the Padres, then you're the bench coach with the Cardinals, and then how did the conversation come up to become a big league manager?
So I started in 2016 as a special assistant to the general manager, AJ Preller, and to Andy Green, the rookie manager. And I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do. There's so many different avenues to go at the big league level. Do you go in the front office? Do you go in the field? Are you a coordinator? Do you want to coach? So I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. So I kind of did the roving a little bit, kind of made my own schedule the first couple of years. And then they offered me the first base coach, outfield base running kind of coach in San Diego. I did that the first 2 years. They promoted me to bench coach there. I did that for 2 years. The manager was let go. And when the manager gets let go in San Diego, all the coaches are free agents. That's how it works in Major League Baseball. The next week, the St. Louis Cardinals called, asked if I wanted to be their bench coach. And that was really tough because that was my first year I would be away from my family because my family always traveled with me as a player, and I was in San Diego as a coach for a number of years. So we had some stability. This was the first time that we weren't together over the summer or during a baseball season. They would come visit, but it's a 3-hour flight, so it was really challenging, but we wanted to see if we could do it. My wife is an angel. I was very lucky that we knew each other since 18 years old. She went to Dubuque, I went to Aliso.
Okay.
So she knows the baseball life, and my kids, that's what they were used to. It was hard, but we knew we could do it. And then I interviewed for the Miami job after the first season in St. Louis, and they offered me the position, and it was a challenge, and I was looking forward to the challenge. However, it's 6-hour flight from California to Florida. My kids were in high school and here in CVCS, so we wanted to see if we could do that. And it's weird, where God places you. And one of my buddies in the Bible study said, bloom where you're planted. Like, there's a reason why He's putting you in these different places, and so I tried my best to bloom where I was planted, and just grateful for the opportunity.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That is awesome. So you had a chance to come up in the big leagues in the Cardinal system. Tell me about, first of all, how was your path from the minor leagues? You got drafted out of UC Santa Barbara, and then where did you first report, and kind of how did that path go in the minor league system to get to the big leagues?
Yeah, I was drafted in the 5th round out of Santa Barbara. Out of high school, I went to Loyola Marymount, LMU. I transferred out of there to Santa Barbara, redshirted my freshman year or my sophomore year at Santa Barbara because of injury, and so I was a redshirt sophomore when I was drafted to the St. Louis Cardinals in the 5th round. It was not an easy path. It was not out of high school. I had 2 scholarship offers. I was a non-prospect in college. I was never a top 30 prospect in the minor leagues, and I wasn't put on the 40-man roster when I could have been protected. So after 3.5 years of minor league service, you get an opportunity to be protected by your major league team on a 40-man roster. If you're not protected, then anybody can get you. Well, not only was I not protected, but no one else wanted me either. So that was a kind of humbling experience in my career. And so I just, we can talk about that a little bit later. And then so had an opportunity to come to spring training. I played winter baseball in Venezuela for 3 months, and just kind of try to keep proving people wrong. And I think in this game, you either prove people right or prove people wrong. And there's a lot of people that are going to try to, a lot of people that are trying to say negative things about you in this game, because it's easier to say that from a 5'10", 190-pound guy that's not super athletic. They can label you pretty quick. And that's why I hate the term, this is just who you are, because I just really believe that you can change really, really quick. And any coach that labels you like that is just not doing their job of trying to get you better. So I've taken that with me on this side of my career, because I'm trying to get the best version out of everybody now. I'm just not labeling people right away like some people labeled me. And then got to went to big league camp in 2005. Started opening some eyes, I guess, a little bit, and then got called up in 2005, and then spent 2005 to 2012 in the big leagues with the Cardinals. Traded to the Dodgers in 13, 14, 15 to the Reds, and then 16 to the Padres.
Incredible. And for the listeners, it's really cool that you are giving a little more insight into, being protected on the 40-man, or you alluded to potentially being Rule 5 drafted, and different things that come up in the professional system. There's a real business to this game that a lot of young listeners, they just don't know about. And so that's cool that, we're able to touch a little bit about that. Could we hear a little bit about the actual call-up? Where were you? I heard a great story on another podcast I got to listen to you about when you were selected to the middle of the year All-Star game in Chattanooga, which I was really familiar with when I was in the Red system. That was our double A. I think it still is double A for the Reds. So where were you when you were called up to the big leagues, and how did that phone call go? Who did you call first once you heard?
So 2005, I was called up, made my major league debut. I was in AAA, and I think what people have to realize that are trying to become big leaguers is there's 90 kids in the Dominican Republic right now in our system in Miami. We'll just say in Miami. So as a Marlin, there's 90 kids there from 16 to 19 years old. In A ball, there are 30 guys on that roster. On high A, there are 30 guys on that roster. In double A, there are 30 guys on that roster. And then triple A, there's 30 guys on that roster, not to mention all the injured players. So there's over 200 kids that are trying to make it to the big leagues and to the 26-man roster in the major leagues. So you have to be the best at every single level, and now it's in Puerto Rico, Dominican, Venezuela, Japan, Korea. It's everywhere. So we live in a bubble here. Like this is not real life. And what people are going through in the DR and some of these Latin kids to try to get to the big leagues is much different than the Orange County kid. When I was in the DR this off season or during the season, I spent my off day. There's kids living in a 1-bedroom house with 8 siblings. You dangle the carrot in front of them is much different than the Orange County kid. And so I think you have to put those things in perspective. Like when they're trying to get to the big leagues to feed their family and change their whole lives. If we don't make it, we'll be okay. And I think that's a major difference in kind of the work ethic and some of the, I'll just say California kids compared to some of these Latin kids in the DR and Puerto Rico and Venezuela. We can talk about that later also. But in 2005, I was in Memphis, Tennessee. My wife was there with our other 2 dogs. I just got married that off season, and I got a base hit, got pulled off the base, and I didn't know really why I wasn't hurt. And the manager said, "Hey, how you feel?" I said, "I'm fine." And he said, "Okay, good, because you're going up to St. Louis. You're playing against the Red Sox tomorrow." I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." They just won the World Series the year before, so I knew it was going to be crazy. And they beat the Cardinals the year before in the World Series, so I knew it was going to be just this packed house, 50,000 people, which it was. And so I called my wife immediately, called my parents. Obviously, they were ecstatic. They flew out that night to Boston. We pack up our little apartment in Memphis. We drive about 4 hours to St. Louis, make my debut. David Wells was the pitcher, left-handed, nasty. I'm left-handed, not the ideal matchup. Tony La Russa, thanks for that one. You picture your major league debut, first at bat, like hit a home run, and you're going to hug your wife and parents after the game. It's going to be this great moment. I saw 3 pitches and struck out, like not even close, barely fouled off 1 pitch. So not exactly the debut I thought I was going to have. Went 0 for 10 to start my career, and then got sent down. And I was sent up and down 6 times before I actually started playing every day.
Wow. See, this is great stuff. Like, I had no idea about that. I know then the following year, 2006, you kind of solidify yourself on the roster. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the first of 2 World Series rings you picked up.
It is, yeah. I was just lucky to be on some really good teams. Nothing I did in 2006. I mean, talking about Albert winning the MVP and, Wainwright closing out a World Series, who actually, we can talk about that later as well. But the reason why I'm a Christian is because of Adam Wainwright. He was my roommate in Memphis. He and his wife were right next door to my wife and I in Memphis. And then, but we had some really good players. I mean, Yadi Molina and Scott Rowland and David Eckstein. I mean, it was nothing I did. I just kind of rode the coattails of those guys. And, I got my first World Series ring.
That's incredible. And then I love hearing about how you become, stronger in your faith and get to build a relationship with Christ through another great teammate of yours in that system. I know in the early years when I was with the Cincinnati Reds in the minor league system, they would have Sunday chapel. I think most major league organization would have a chaplain, at least in those days. Was that true with the Cardinal system? Were you able to find a place to do some worship?
Yeah, every Sunday they had it. My journey is a little bit different. Now there's baseball chapel. Every organization has a baseball chaplain every Sunday before a game. It's just impossible to go to church when you're a Major League Baseball player. You have a game at 1 o'clock every Sunday. There's never any off days on Sundays. So they implemented that, 15 years ago or so, that it's required, which is great, but funded by all the players. My journey, as far as that, just real quick, in 2000, I transferred to Santa Barbara. I was injured, but before that, a couple weeks before that, a guy named John Kirkgard was our assistant coach, and he said, "Why don't you come to Bible study with us, a couple guys, before the game on Sundays?" And I was so locked into baseball that I was like, "Dude, I don't have time for chapel. What are you talking about?" I didn't grow up as a Christian or a Catholic or anything, so I wasn't going to give 15 minutes of my day before a game. Like, that's crazy thought. That's a crazy talk. And so 6 games in, I get hurt, dislocated my shoulder, have surgery, and John Kirkgard goes, "Well, you got time now. How about now?" So I really didn't have an excuse. I'm like, "All right, fine." So I went there, and it kind of opened my eyes to something different that I'd never been a part of or heard of before. So kind of went down this journey, and then Adam Wainwright was traded to the Cardinals from the Braves, gave me my first Bible and wrote inside. It's the only Bible I have still. Said everything you need to know in life is in here. Adam Wainwright,
Wow.
and that was before he became Adam Wainwright. In 2004, 2005, and that kind of created the path I'm on today.
That is incredible. It's interesting too because you don't think about it when you're young. And Skip and I, we didn't have a friendship. We didn't know each other. It was just we knew of each other, and we matched up a few times in some winter games or maybe a CIF game. But if you're not sure that there's a God or there's something spiritual above, you should have seen Skip's arm when he was in high school. That thing was a lightning bolt. I was so jealous of that cannon that he would throw across the diamond. And I think there was a game that they even threw you on the mound. You weren't a pitcher really, but you just went up there and we didn't have the radar guns out like they do today and all that good stuff. But you had to be in the low 90s at least with that arm. And when you would set up and throw across the diamond, it just was a fantastic arm and just all around the speed and everything that you had. So we're going to go to 2011 now. That's an interesting. I don't think I got to tell you this. I remember you were going to LMU out of Aliso. I went to Southeast Missouri State. Mark Wazakowski was the recruiting coordinator over there for a couple of years. He's now the head coach at University of Oregon. And talk about what a couple of years of a recruiting class can do. Southeast Missouri State had never been to a regional in their history of NCAA Division I since like the 60s. And then under Mark Wazakowski, there was 2 regionals. And including a big upset at Alabama, which was one of the most memorable moments of my baseball career. But I went to Southeast Missouri State, which is just about 90 miles down the road from St. Louis Cardinals. And so, as you could imagine, dorms, just everybody on campus. I mean, Cardinal fans, if you're not from the Midwest, I don't think you could really, truly understand. Cardinal fans might be the best fans in the nation.
I think they are. I think it's a sea of red. You're an outcast if you're wearing a different color on game day. They are not the loudest fans in the world because they're keeping score the whole time. They literally have score books in their charting, and it is incredible. They know everybody, but they're very respectful because it's a small community, so you can go out to dinner and not get bothered. They know everything about you, but it's in a good way, and they are super supportive. And I think, that community, just Sportstown, the St. Louis Blues is super popular there. They don't have a basketball team, but the colleges are very popular. University of Missouri, obviously, at the school you went to. So it's a special sports town. It feels like a big market in a small community, and they're super passionate. And I mean, they won until last year 17 straight seasons of winning baseball, which is unheard of in Major League sports or any sport to have winning records. So, are we going to talk about the high school thing now, or you want to go later?
Let's bring that up later. But I want to. So let's go to 2011 October, and it's important in my life because I marry my beautiful wife Vanessa in October of 2011, and we're in Hawaii on a honeymoon, and I am trying to just be in the moment with her because it's an amazing time in my life. But there's a TV up. I think we're at Roy's, and it's the 8th inning, and the Cardinal game. It's the amazing freeze moment, and all of a sudden, this is why I knew I married a good one too, because she's like, you know what, we both need to go up to the bar and we need to watch this game.
You married the right one.
And we saw, and my wife is not a huge baseball person. She grew up a soccer family, parents from Mexico and El Salvador, very soccer family. In fact, Senora Velasquez, my wife's sister, my sister-in-law, is a Spanish teacher and soccer coach here at CVCS. And so she looks at me after this game's over and is just as excited as I am about watching one of the best baseball games you could watch on TV. And she goes, "Is baseball always like this?" And I said, "No, you just witnessed something pretty dang special." So you got to live that in real time. I mean, you're on the field, you're battling, you're going to war. Just tell us a little bit about that, because that's your second World Series win, but that was a very different feel. Tell me about that.
Well, that season we got in the last game of the season to the playoffs, so we had to have the Braves had to beat the Phillies for us to get in, and we had to beat the Houston Astros to get in. So the last day was that crazy day. I don't know if you remember the Red Sox versus the Orioles, the Tampa Bay Rays where Longoria hit the home run down the line to get in. All of that was happening the same day. And so we're sitting there watching to see if we get in the Houston clubhouse, the Braves and the Phillies game, to see if we even get into the playoffs. And then it was just kind of this magical run. In Game 6, I mean, many people will say that's of the World Series that year, will say that was the greatest baseball game in the history of sports. When you're in it, you don't think about that. You're just trying to survive and try to win and do whatever you can. What's crazy is that game, I started that game and then got double switched out of the game in the 7th inning. And we were down quite a bit, or maybe the 7th inning, can't remember. But anyway, we were down quite a bit, and in the 9th inning, Feliz is their closer for the Texas Rangers, and he was that year the best closer by far in the major leagues. The game was over. I mean, we were down a couple runs, and it was freezing cold. The ball does not fly in St. Louis in general, but in that weather, with the weather conditions, like it was just not ideal for us. I don't know what the chances of us winning were, like predicted now, but I'm guessing it was less than 5%. So when before David Freese came up to the plate, Tony La Russa said to a couple of us, make sure you stay in the dugout and thank the fans. This is before David Freese got up. So that's how grim it was, that game, or the prospects of us winning that game. And so it was me, Chris Carpenter, and a couple guys were like, okay, we'll make sure everybody's here. And then hit, and then the Freeze triple to tie it, and then ended up winning the game. You could not have scripted that any better. Just David Freeze, a hometown kid, traded to St. Louis. He has 1 million fans, family members in the stands, cheering him on. His whole story is wild. How he, came through and changed his life, became a Christian as well. So the whole deal is really inspirational, and most likely there will be a movie about it someday.
Yeah, that is so neat to hear from somebody like yourself that lived in that moment. What I thought was really neat about this World Series, there's a lot of things. Obviously, Freddie Freeman going off with all the home runs and stuff, and I know we're going to get into a little bit of hitting talk. We could talk about him. Probably don't even have enough time, but I just think it was really neat in the playoffs this year. A lot of guys seem to be really, just giving props to God and by the grace of God, and just understanding that these moments, like the outcome is really out of our hands, and that they're just really living in the moment, living in the process, and just trusting in their faith. And I feel like this postseason, that just seemed to come up more authentic, more organically than I've ever remembered noticing in the past. And I think that it's a testament to people like yourself that have just been in this game and have become Christians and aren't afraid to speak out about it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, in a world now where it's you're afraid to say stuff all the time when it's talking about your faith or whatever it is, I'm proud of the guys that are standing behind their faith and giving the glory, good or bad. to God. It's easy to, sing His praise when it's going well, but what about when it's not, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you saw that both ways this series, and that's what I think I took most away from both sides. Every team that was in the playoffs, you could hear it from whether it's the Phillies guys and JT Realmuto to what you talked about in Freddie or Kershaw or whatever, and the good and the highs and the lows. It's funny, I heard a sermon a few weeks ago that the guy said, I used to record every single 49er game. He was a pastor, mm-hmm. Because church was on at 1 o'clock and I would miss the game. He goes, but if I caught wind of who won the game if the 49ers won the game already before I came home and it was already recorded, I wouldn't get as upset at the interception or the fumble or whatever because I knew the outcome. And if you are if you have true faith, then you already know your outcome, like what the end is going to be, right? So why are you fearing all these other things? And it's a different way of watching the game. And so when you're going through the game and fearing these unknowns, why are you doing that? Because you already know that this really doesn't matter. You already know what your outcome in the finish line is, right? So it was a pretty interesting perspective when you're thinking about the pastor who's recording the game, and then whether he knows the outcome or not changes the way he views it. Was pretty interesting, and I thought there's a lot of correlation in that with the World Series and then listening to that sermon.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's really powerful to just know. I mean, hitting a baseball, for example, hardest thing to do in sports, but if you have a mindset that keeps the outcome, hey, leaving it to God, I definitely think it takes the pressure off a little bit, and maybe that's part of an approach. And sometimes even if you're not a Christian, just to think of being part of the team and just letting the team be the number one priority instead of so much about an individual performance. But the thing I want to get into next. Well, actually, let's. So you were a Aliso Niguel standout. How did that choice to go to LMU happen, and then ultimately your transfer from LMU to UC Santa Barbara?
I wouldn't say standout. I would have had scholarship offers everywhere if I was a standout, but thank you for that. I was there at Aliso Niguel at the beginning of it opening. So I was the second graduating class. So, I was a 4-year starter at the varsity level, but it was because they didn't really have too many seniors and juniors, right? So I wouldn't say it was because I was just like this really good player. They didn't really have too many other spots. But I think I loved high school. I worked really hard to be a varsity player and to get to be able to play D1. That was like my goal. My goal was, again, not to be a major leaguer at that time. It was just to try to keep playing as long as I could. And then LMU, my cousin went there as a pitcher, so it was already attracted to me. I kind of was comfortable there, and then went there. The coach wasn't exactly the guy that was recruiting me, and I was one of 9 transfers before there was like a transfer portal. And I think the learning lesson from that one was, I didn't talk to any of the current players on that roster. And there was a reason why he didn't introduce me to any of the current players on that roster, because once you got in the system, it was just a much different person than the one that was kind of pitching the program. And so I always what one person says might be one thing, but if it's a group of people, then that's a whole different thing, right? And I think that when there's 9 guys that leave, that was kind of eye-opening to my parents, like, oh, maybe I wasn't that crazy, right? So I went to Santa Barbara. I just wanted to be around really good people that could help me grow. And that was the place for me at the time. The program was not good as far as like win-loss record. I didn't care. And now
they're a powerhouse.
Yeah, they're pretty good. It was all because of me. That's because I transferred there and turned it around.
Started it.
But I think they just got a bunch of really good guys that started believing in themselves and had a chip on their shoulder because again, there's other people that doubted us, and we were out to prove people wrong.
So then, I love how humble you are because I remember you as a standout for sure. And I guess, both of us being on the smaller side, I was 5'8", 165 pounds at El Toro. You were probably listed at 5'10", 175 then, or 170.
150.
My
senior year in high school. Yeah, 150.
And it's something that, I think when you're small, it's like you have to prove to everyone that you can play. Where sometimes when you're 6'4", 220, and you show up hitting some BP moonshots, like you're kind of now already everyone believes you can play, and then you kind of prove them otherwise. And then hey, this is why we do need to put a 5'9" guy in there. And so I just remember you as a big time speed, arm, athletic, hit from the left side. And so fast forward to now, I'm coaching a few years back, and I get this text from a former student of mine I was doing baseball lessons with, and he was like, "You got to call me, coach." And I call him, and he's like, "You're never going to believe this, but Skip Schumaker was a guest speaker at our practice, and your name came up." And then you and I had a chance to connect and talk about that a little bit a couple days ago. But would you mind elaborating on that a little bit?
Yeah. So my junior year in high school, and I know these numbers because it kind of changed the way I approached the game. I don't know any other numbers. I know some of my big league numbers, but I know my junior year numbers in high school. So my junior year, I hit 589 as a junior in high school. I led Orange County in average. I led Orange County in hits and runs, and we just had a really good year. I say that because I went to area code games. I got asked to be part of the tryout, and I didn't make it past the first round. A guy named Clemente Bonilla was also at that tryout, made it past the first round, the second round, and ended up making the team. And I was like, who the hell is this guy, Clemente Bonilla? And because you made the team, and again, you didn't. I just knew you going to El Toro, El Toro, and being a really good player. But other than that, I didn't know the person you were or the family you had or any background at all. I just knew that you beat me in the race, right, to be on the area codes. So every single lift I had after that, every single tee, soft toss, machine, every single session I had was Clemente Bonilla. How am I going to beat Clemente Bonilla? You were part of every single workout I had from high school to college to professional baseball because in sports you need to have a chip on your shoulder. I didn't have a chip. I just thought I was good and I was good enough. Well, it wasn't, and that was part. I was not wanted for the first time in my life in area code games, which I thought was like the biggest deal in the world. And so I was like, all right, well, Clemente, I'm about to prove people wrong that they should have picked me. And it had nothing to do against you because you're a good guy, but that started my motivation of outworking everybody in the weight room, outworking everybody in the tee sessions or whatever, coming in early, staying late. You were my motivation, and the chip on my shoulder. Now I have all kinds of chips on my shoulder now. But at the time, I was out to get you. And which is so crazy because 20 years later, during COVID, we toured this school. I live in Ladera, and my kids are going to go to CVCS. And then I find out who the head baseball coach is, and it's Clemente Bonilla. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You have no idea the thought I had about you for about 15 years of my career. So anyway, I love you right now. But at the time, I was out to get you.
It gives me goosebumps just to think that I was a small part of that motivation.
No, you're a big part. No, you were the guy. I didn't think about anybody else.
And that's incredible because you know what? You did prove everybody wrong and just went on to have a major, beautiful, successful career as a player and now continuing as a young manager in the game or young coach in the game. But that's just so exciting. I had a big junior year in high school too. I remember I didn't hit that high. I think that year I had two. This was crazy because we're so small of guys, but we also had those super aluminums that I think might have helped a little bit.
Of course.
Plus a little bat speed. But I hit 2 walk-off grand slams that year. And so for a guy that was hitting the leadoff spot, I think I had like 47 ribs and had 6 or 7 home runs. So like I kind of supplied a little bit of power for a little guy that maybe in the early years must have looked attractive. But as I got
Well,
older,
you were a good player too. I mean, that is the other part of it. I was just proving people wrong.
yeah. Well, the thing that I learned, man, I mean, I wish, hopefully we can get you on every off season, make you a regular guest, and this podcast continues to grow. And again, it's just so awesome thanks again for being here. And I know we're going to get short on time soon, but just the experiences of being around great baseball people and great. Me in the minor leagues with the Reds and the Orioles. Freddie Benavides was our infield roamer. Tim Naring was our minor league director. There was just Bob Boone was the major league manager, and one of the off seasons, Aaron Boone, they were tinkering with having him play second base. And they asked me to meet. I actually met him up at Santa Margarita High School, and we were turning double plays and going over footwork stuff, and just the kind of people that you're around, and you times 100 with the amazing like if baseball was a school, like these people have their doctorates, master's doctorates. I mean, they're just epic baseball minds. And one thing that I learned watching you, that I look back on my career, I was stubborn, and I wish that I wasn't a special middle infielder. And you had alluded earlier to the Dominican Republic and Venezuelan. I mean, when I signed, and I'm in high A in the California League, and I'm 22 years old in my first months of professional baseball, and there's somebody who's 21 years old who's been in professional baseball for 5 years and who came over stateside probably 3 years ago and has the best, softest hands I've ever seen in my life. Like I mean, I was around some good players in high school and college, and now it's a whole new world watching some of these guys. And like you said, they're playing like their lives depend on it. And it was really eye-opening. And, I teach guys now, hey, if you're 5'8", 5'10", even if you're 6'2", and you could run a little bit, have an outfielder's glove. Just don't label yourself, I'm a shortstop, and that's it. Be comfortable at playing third, short, second. You know what? Grab a first baseman's mitt. Don't be scared to get back there. Maybe even get on the mound. You got a good arm. Throw a few bullpens. Be comfortable. Maybe be comfortable with being uncomfortable until you could really fake it till you make it, because this game gets so difficult so fast. And I think that you adapted and pivoted better than any of us in that era. And there was a lot of good players that came out of Orange County that year. But you just adapted and pivoted. You did what you needed to do. You did it well. You just did the small details were, in my opinion, you were perfection with the small details. And what I want to talk about now is just where we are in the game today, where there's a lot of like showcase. Everybody's going to these camps and showcases, just trying to show off their exit velo or their 95-mile-an-hour fastball, but don't necessarily have an approach to hit or don't necessarily have pitch ability. What kind of advice would you maybe give to some of these young kids? And in fact, I'd like to get into, you have a son who's committed to TCU and is a standout player at a local Catholic private school. And yeah, just a little bit of now from a player, from a big league coach, and also as a father of a kid who's in the middle of it right now. Just what kind of advice or feelings do you have about that?
Yeah, we could spend a lot of time on where the travel ball era has gone and gone too far. It used to be only the best kids play travel ball. Now everybody plays travel, soccer, baseball, basketball, whatever. So I think it's kind of gotten away from what it should have been back in the day, like how we played. But my son didn't do a showcase until he was a freshman. Colleges nowadays can't even recruit you to your junior year. So the whole idea of you got to go play in Georgia and Texas and Florida and whatever, it's just a moneymaker. And you just got to be very careful on the travel ball system that you're in, and all these showcase tournaments, and the fear of missing out is real for parents, and it's just not true. When I was part of the scouting system a little bit in San Diego for the first 2 years, not one time did I feel like I had to go see a PG showcase to make sure that the guys were there and making sure that their 40-yard dash was good and their hit tool, exit velo was 103. None of that. I didn't care. I wanted to see how you acted around your teammates. I wanted to see if you're on your phone the whole time. I wanted to see if you how you acted with your parents, because not all the time during a baseball game is a ball hit to you. Sometimes you don't get a strike thrown to you, and sometimes you don't pitch that day. So I want to see what happens when you fail, and I want to see how you interact with your teammates and your parents. I want to see what your friends think about you. I want to see what your teachers think about you. There's a kid named Royce Lewis that was at J. Sarah, who was the guy that like I identified right away, or that they had me identify right away of like, take a look at. Well, guess what Royce Lewis was? The best teammate, the best son to his parents, the best friend to his friend group, didn't have social media, couldn't find him on Twitter, couldn't find him on Instagram. And guess what he was? The first overall pick at 17 years old. And by the way, wasn't a holdback. And he was young for his grade. So all of these things that like, oh, you have to be held back and you have to do, it's just not true. There is no evidence that suggests that that the holdbacks are major league players. Zero. Like not one thing suggests that. And yeah, you might benefit early on as a freshman because you might be a little more physical, but they all catch up. Exactly. I hate to break it to you, but that freshman that wasn't held back, by the time he's a senior, he kind of caught up. It just depends on the work ethic and everything else. So there's a lot of layers to this thing that a lot of organizations or facilities can convince you of. It's just not true. When I go and I watch players, and the really good scouts are trying to identify, is this guy a good fit for our system? They don't want BS. They don't want character issues. They don't want to have to deal with somebody in the newspaper. Like, they don't want to have to babysit. They want a really good person, and then can he play? Is he a really good person first, and then can he play? Because colleges and pro ball, they just won't deal with it unless you're like the 1%, right? Unless you're LeBron or Bryce Harper or like, nobody here is that. Right. So what are you at the end of the day? So it's a huge deal. So, my son, he doesn't have a PG ranking or any of that stuff. Like I've never been asked to rank anybody, and I've been in the game for 20 years. Like, who is ranking these kids? And who's ranking these teams? Like, no one's ever asked me, and I've been in the game forever. So I don't buy into all of that stuff. Now, like, when you're sophomore and junior, I think you should play in some things to play against the higher competition. But when you are in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade, it's about developing, and you never stop developing. Gosh, I'm not fully developed in my eyes, like as far as spiritually in different ways. So there's no way that like you can, again, we go back to the label thing. You're not going to be able to label a 9th or 10th grader because you have to like develop still physically. But if you're a bad kid, like that's tough to break. Right. So that part is, I'm telling you, and parents, that people look at more than any other thing right now. Now, as far as my son, he committed to TCU. My daughter plays soccer at Santa Margarita. And I try to be dad first. I don't try to be coach. And I try to separate the two. Do I have a hard time at times? Absolutely. Because that's my profession, and that's all I know is baseball and work ethic, and try to ingrain that into them as much as possible, because if the sports don't work out, hopefully they're a professional at something else. Mm-hmm. But how I treat my wife and how I treat them, I hope and my faith, I hope resonates more than like, if you could hit a ball or kick a ball or whatever. But I do feel like the showcase scene is gotten out of hand, and so I don't want to talk about that anymore.
That's beautifully said. Our young listeners, our parents, this is somebody who's been in the game at the highest levels for a better part of 2 decades, and is telling you the things that, I share little stories with the kids, and I know they respect and believe in me, but it's just nice when they could hear another voice, and a voice that's even gone much further than I ever could have done. But the thing, I'll share a story with the Cincinnati Reds, and they used to make us wear the tweeners with the stirrups. We had to show 3 inches of sock. The minor leaguers, we had to show 3 inches of sock. And sometimes I think these guys get together and they're just like, what can we do just to see if these kids will follow simple instructions, if they'll have some discipline. And there was like a $50 fine for us if we had our socks down. Like got real popular in our earlier days where the pant over the shoes and stuff, and they just didn't want us doing that in the minor league. So And I remember one of our first rounders, I'm not going to say any names, of course, but just a great arm on the mound, electric stuff for that time. But he went into the Tim Naring's office and gave a check for 142 times $50 and just said, he's like, what is this for? Oh, this is just for the fines for every single game because I'm going to wear my pants down the way I want to wear them. And he never pitched in the big leagues for anybody.
Shocker.
Yeah, and so I try to tell the kids that, you listen, you were part of 2 World Series. You listen to the guys, Dodgers this year, whether it's high school CIF, you made the CIF run in high school, whether it's college, playing in college regionals and trying to make it to the super regionals or college World Series. The same thing keeps coming up about good character, being a good teammate, culture, having each other's backs, being willing to get a guy over, sacrifice fly, get him in, like just not always worrying about yourself. And if you could align your best interest with the team best interest, that's even better. But they got to put the team first, and some of that is starting to disappear. And it's just, it's just such an honor to have you here as a baseball guy, but as a parent who's out there trying to teach a high performance athlete / son how to do things the right way. It's nice that there's still some people out there teaching the game, in my opinion, the right way. And there's also a time and place for these showcases, in my opinion, too. And sometimes it's not always just for what you think, the showcase. You can get overexposed if you're out there throwing 82 as a sophomore. Maybe you should wait a year and see if you can bump that up a little bit. Or if you throw 88 to 90, but you can't, throw a strike to save your life, maybe you should wait an extra year till you get a little bit more command. But at the same time, there's some value in going to Georgia and staying in a hotel for the first time, maybe having a schedule where you're getting up and, breakfast, nutrition, just trying to treat it as if it's a mini camp, like a minor league mini camp or something like, or a college, like trying to get ready because obviously when we get to those next levels, that it gives them a little bit of confidence that they felt that. So, your daughter went here. Would you mind saying? I think if we're here with Beth Wilkinson. She's our marketing director filming this. Thank you, Beth, for everything you're doing. And I just discovered that your daughter and her daughter were friends in the junior high, she went to elementary in 6th grade and then junior high 7th, 8th grade. So that was really neat. That gives us a little connection as well. And how was her experience academically? We'll kind of get away from baseball for a second.
Yeah, she loved it here. During COVID is when we were trying to figure out exactly what to do. And we are so grateful for CVCS and the teachers and this little community because we kind of rolled the dice on CVCS because the school system was just so backwards everywhere else. And we were having really some trouble with the Zoom calls at the house. So we didn't have a ton of friends that came here, but or that were already here. But a group of girls decided to come over here and really fell in love with it. My wife is convinced that angels actually work here. The teachers were incredible. And we had just a wonderful experience for those 3 years. And, and so did that whole girl group. It was, the Herzings and the Condons. And I think a couple of them still go here, actually. I think actually Cam Herzing is on the cheerleading team here, but it's a wonderful place, and I recommend it all the time for people. And the sports program obviously does really well here as well. And but like the people here, it's like my business. I've always said it's a people relationship business, and that's what it is, and that's what makes this thing either good or bad. And CVCS has the relationship business down because it starts at the top and then all the way down. I mean, I'm talking everybody that we've met here it was fantastic and really helped my daughter become who she is right now.
That's awesome. And one of the reasons why this is such a wonderful place is because we get wonderful families that come in here and want to be a part of this. And, I think we talked about this a little bit over the phone a couple days ago, but the car ride homes, I hope your son understands, or he will when he gets a little bit older, just how blessed he was to have a father that just understood a little bit about the game and sports and high performance athletic competition. And nobody's striking out with the bases loaded on purpose. Nobody's throwing a ball, airmailing it into the stands for two-run error on purpose. And that whether you went 4 for 4 with 2 doubles and a bomb, or you went 0 for 4 with 6-4-3 double play and a couple Ks, like, we could still go to dinner. We could still enjoy each other as a family. You still be, a good person, and let's go get some ice cream. Let's go get a burger. Let's live life, And the sun's going to come up tomorrow, and you know what? Let's put some work in and try to do it again. And I think that your son, if he probably already has an idea of it, but when he gets into his 20s and older, like, he'll really appreciate. Like, I was very fortunate. I had a father that played at Long Beach State, so he had an understanding that this game is hard. And as long as you're out there giving it your best, you put the uniform on, you hustle, you work hard, whether we're talking about the outcome, let it take care of itself, and just try to have fun. I mean, in the big league, sometimes, you have to manage some of the most talented people in the world, and I think sometimes they forget. Like, maybe you got to remind them, like, let's have a little fun too.
Well, back to the parent thing. The parent should be the biggest fan of their kid. And they should feel that the kids should feel that my parents have my back in the good times and bad. The last thing that you want to have your kid do is not want to jump in the car after the game, because they're going to hear about how bad they were during the game. I don't know about you, but my parents weren't big leaguers or NFL stars or whatever. I'm guessing 99% of CVS parents were not in the big leagues or NFL or NBA. I know Santa Margarita is not. But for whatever reason, in this community and other communities, it's not just this community, the parents just feel like they want to tell the kids about their game on the way home. I will tell you that if you did a survey on the kids on what they want their parents to tell them during a game, I'm guessing it's nothing. I'm guessing they don't want to hear them at all during the game, and they just want to be able to play and do their thing, because there's a small window of you're watching your kids play sports. There's an expiration date to this thing. And why not enjoy it as much as you can? Because most likely they're not going to play in college. They might not even play in high school, but most likely not going to play in college or after that. So why are you not enjoying every single moment of it? Because it's going to help them in the end in your relationship and everything else. So, initially I had a little bit of a challenging time. And I learned from it early on, and this is how I came to it. When my son was like 8 or 9 years old, I wanted it more than he did. And he's 8. I was like, of course I want it more than he does. He's a kid. And so I wanted to be able to have dinner with him. I wanted to be able to have ice cream after the game, no matter what. And so it was a learning lesson. Luckily, I learned it early on. My dad was tough on me. So that helped me. You learn from other people's mistakes as well. And I think and that really helped me in how I parent today. But, I see it all the time, like, these parents are like way more stressed than the kids are when they're playing. I was like, will you relax? Relax. Like, just enjoy it. And hopefully they will, enjoy it more than stress about it.
Oh, that's such good stuff for these parents to hear. We do want to get to the people want to know, the players want to know. It's the segment that we've kind of started. Again, this is the 3rd episode, and we started it last episode. And so I have a few questions here. The kids texted me last night. But before we even get that, I have a special question from a coach. You led CIF in hitting in '97, your junior year, with a .589 batting average, and our senior year, Blair Lucas led the CIF with a .546 batting average that year. He's now living in Utah, and he's doing great things out there, coaching at Springville High School in Utah. And his question for you in this segment of The Players Want to Know: will two-strike hitting come back to the big leagues? Choking up, making some adjustments, and putting the ball in play? Or is this kind of fad of home run or bust, even with 2 strikes, going to continue on?
So there's a couple, I say this quite often on this podcast, I think, but there's some layers to this also. So I think there's value in putting the ball in play. I think, especially at the high school level, because you want them to make mistakes. Striking out, you can't make mistakes on the other side if you're just punching out all the time. I think it's a mentality. I think it's it's me against you and you're not beating me. I think that is lost because sometimes you just want to fire off your A swing all the time, which I've heard in the past. I think that's coming back now it's me against you and you're not beating me. So even if it's putting the ball in play, I think that is part of that mentality shift. I do feel like there are some organizations now, AA down, are making you choke up. So I do feel like it is coming back to that because the velocity and everything else at the major league level is so elite that you can't just hit home runs. Listen, I love home runs. I will love every single guy to hit a home run. It just doesn't happen. Hitting is really hard. So putting the ball in play, I think it's also a system thing. So if high school coaches value it and they make their players do it, and then if you don't play because you don't do it, I think that changes the culture. So I think that is also a thing. But I do feel like it's you have to be careful on where you send your kids facility-wise, because if they're not teaching it and they just think there's one way to hit, then you're sending your kid to the wrong place.
Beautifully answered. Next question. This is from a sophomore catcher, Baron Butler. Skip, do you like coaching more than you liked playing?
I love coaching. I mean, I loved playing. Being a player was obviously my favorite thing. That's all I wanted to do. I love playing baseball. But coaching, you sign up to be a teacher. And I love teaching and giving back and trying to manage egos and trying to make dreams come true. And I think it's so cool when you see kids buy in on messages and you can, change them not only physically, but also mentally, and get them to a really good place in, outside relationship or, whatever parenting. So there's all kinds of different ways you can coach. It's not just like coaching the game, but it's coaching like life skills that I really love, because when I was a player, again, I was just in survival mode, trying to take care of my family. So I never wanted to coach, but I love coaching. I just wanted to play. So I love them equally as much now.
That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, you talked about it earlier in the podcast, just when you're a kid, you dream of that bases, Freddie Freeman style, bases loaded and 2 outs in the extra innings or bottom of the ninth, and you hit a grand slam. You're not usually dreaming of managing that situation in the dugout, but I think when it becomes part of who you are, after your career's over, whether it's 10 years in the big leagues or just a few minor league seasons, and then you're in high school education. At that time in your life, now you want to be the best at that. I wanted to be the best hitter I could be when I was 16 to 24, and now I want to be the best coach I can be, and I want to help these kids just like you want to help the young adults stay in the big leagues. If they get to the big leagues, stay in the big leagues, because that becomes such a wonderful thing to share with these young kids. Baron, thank you for asking that question. We have senior outfielder Lennox Bray. Is there a actual recipe for success?
Gosh, I mean, that's a loaded question. In baseball, you're saying? I tell my kids there's no magic pill. It's work. And I think if you just do everything you can to be a major leaguer, if that's your goal, and you don't succeed, I still feel like you gave it everything you can, and there's success behind that you gave everything you had into it, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. But I don't believe that you'll ever make it if you're not all in. I don't think you're going to make it if you're not all in on relationships. I think if you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you're not going to be successful in that. I think you're not going to be successful in high school. If you're 1 foot out in a class, you're probably not going to do well in that subject. So I feel like this is the same way in baseball, that like whatever you're passionate about and truly care about, and you're all in on it, I think that is the definition of success. Now, whether it happens or not, I mean, that's sometimes not in your control, but I just feel like you can feel really good about yourself when you're committed and all in on something.
That's great input, and I think it really kind of relates to this next question. I think that the sophomore infielder Jackson Phillips, he wants to know, what did you learn in baseball that has helped you in your life aspects?
Well, yeah, I think that we just kind of that ties into it, right? Is the all-in mentality. When you're a manager or a coach or a player, the guys are not successful or don't make it that are just checking boxes. If you're going to a practice and you're just checking a box, if you want to say, hey, 10 off the tee, and you're doing 10, you're just like everyone else. Now, if you're adding 2 to it, I did 12, or in the weight room, plus 2 of everything, then I think you're moving the needle. But I do feel like that's anything in life. I'm not a big box checker. Like, I just don't believe in it. How do you grow if you're just doing it what everyone else is doing? So I think that kind of ties into the previous question.
Yeah, absolutely. And just by all accounts from our great mutual friends that we have, and you really do live what you're speaking. I know you're always out at different places in the community. You're helping Saddleback Junior College with the outfield. I've heard you on other podcasts talk about how you still like to show your kids what it is to be a good husband by dating your wife, and you're such a great father. And so I really think that all-in mentality that you picked up as a ball player has really crossed over into your life and the way you coach. And it's just really neat to see and to now to learn that I'm even a small part of helping you get to the big leagues. That's just crazy to me. It blows my mind. Sophomore right-handed pitcher Mason Ruppel. What are MLB coaches looking for in their starting pitching?
Strikes. Strike one. I think if you see the difference between strike one and ball one, it is a significant difference in the outcome as a hitter and as a pitcher. There's something like 94% of outs in a game if they're in an 0-1 count. If they start the 0-1 count, 94% chance you're going to make an out.
Wow.
And so I think you see major leaguers now, major league organizations are actually setting up right down the middle. For their catchers are setting up right down the middle, because the average miss in the major leagues is 8 to 12 inches. So a guy can just, very rarely do you have pinpoint control. So you're aiming at the glove, but you usually miss 8 to 10 inches. So if you're setting up on the edges and you're missing 8 to 10 inches, it's a ball. So the value we just talked about earlier, it's really hard to hit. So throw strikes. Trust the defense. I can't help you if you're just walking everybody. Nobody cares how hard your ball 4 is, right? We talked about the showcases. Nobody cares how hard you're throwing if you can't throw a strike. I don't care. I don't have time to watch you throw balls. So throw strikes. Take a little less off if you need to, but there is value in putting the ball in play, and there's value in strike one.
That's incredible. And, in our last episode, we had Brian Rao of B. Rowdy Baseball Training Facility. He's a former minor league pitcher in the Washington Nationals organization. He talked about that very much similar to what you're speaking of. And when he was at Laguna Hills High School, he was 5'10", maybe 175. And then he went as a 17-year-old, he went to Chapman University, and he hit a spurt where he grew to like 6'2", 6'3", and all of a sudden, Laguna Hills, he was topping out at 85. Now he's topping out at like 93. But when he was a younger kid that didn't throw hard, he had to learn how to throw strikes, and he had to be able to mix it up. And so then all of a sudden, he gained some height, gained some velocity, and now he was a guy that had some power stuff, but still could pitch, just that pinpoint control. And he ended up being one of the best Division III pitchers in the history of NCAA Division III. So you listeners out there, strike one is so important. This is our last question of the day, and this is from freshman left-handed pitcher Jensen Ripasoli. He actually starts this question with a quick note that, hey, Skip, I attended the camp that benefits NIGU. Am I saying that right?
NIGU.
Yeah. And so he asks, how important is it as a pro athlete to give back to your community? So if you can, answer left-handed pitcher Jensen's question, but I'd like to know a little bit more about what NIGU is as well.
We talked about Adam Wainwright and kind of the journey, being a Christian. They started the Cardinals. Matt Holliday, Adam Wainwright started making visits to children's hospitals and on their off days or after day games, and they asked if I wanted to be part of it. I said, of course, and it kind of opened up my eyes to having a platform, because it's amazing, what you can do with your platform to these kids that are really fighting for their lives. I'm playing baseball. Like, I thought the 0 for 4 was tough day. It's nothing compared to what these families are going through. But what's crazy is when I was going in there, like, what I thought I was doing good for them, they were actually giving way more to me and putting life in perspective. And I'm playing a game, and what I thought was like so important in my life really wasn't important. And especially when you have young kids, it really opens up your eyes of what certain families are fighting for or fighting with. So I get traded to the Dodgers in 2013. A little girl in our community, Jessie Reese, is kind of fighting for her life and had brain cancer and ended up passing away. Her dad, Eric Reese, created this foundation, the Jessie Reese Foundation, and it was Never Ever Give Up is NIGU. Okay. And you see like these bracelets around everywhere. Patrick Mahomes wore one last night. It's a big deal. I have it tattooed on me. And my wife and I wanted to be a part of something in our community, and then this story happened. So we kind of dove in head first and started doing a baseball camp every off season, where 100% of the proceeds go to the Jessie Reese Foundation. So we cap it at 100 kids. And then kids that are fighting cancer are also in each group, or that come and want to take part of the camp. So the kids are getting like really good baseball skills from some really good major league players and coaches. We have special guests, but also the kids are also seeing what kids are going through in their lives and helping certain kids hit a baseball or run or whatever it is. So it's kind of puts everything in perspective as well. A kid named Cade Spinello was Jessie Reese's chemo buddy. And so Cade and I have, and his family have built, a really good relationship. His dad is in my Bible studies every Thursday night at my house.
Oh, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and it's kind of just, gone crazy. Cade has spoke to our team 7 years in a row now, like in L.A. or San Diego or wherever. A really special family. So to answer the question, like, Roberto Clemente. I'm assuming there's something with that, but one of our favorite Roberto Clemente sayings is, if you have a chance to help someone and you don't, then you're wasting your time on earth. And we have a real chance. Man, I played baseball, but it's a platform, so I'm going to use it, and we have a chance to help people. So now my kids get to see it. My wife obviously is all in on it, and so that's where the NIGU charity comes from.
That's just a great story, touching, and also just to help these kids understand the perspective of you think you had a bad day. There's really people out there that truly understand what a bad day is, and so going 0 for 4 or walking a couple guys, really does put it in perspective. And Jensen, thank you for asking that question. And Skip, I just can't say it enough. I feel so blessed that you were able to come today. I am a fan of Skip Schumaker. I've always been, to be honest. I thought you had a great arm in '97, and I've been a fan since 1997.
Me too, but in different ways.
But just the family man that you are, the kids. I wish your son such great success. He's with great people, which I understand why that is. Just listening to you talk and how important that is for you. To put him around great people. And please let us know, because you're part of our CVCS family too. So if you need anything, your wife, such a great, I bet she could talk on a podcast for an hour on just being a girlfriend and a wife of a Major League Baseball player and to that. It's just such neat stories that your Schumaker family has created, and we just thank you for sharing a little bit today. Love to have you as a guest again, maybe the next off season, see where your life is at that point, and then also maybe dive into some real hitting talks and approaches and things like that. Kids, I hope you listened today how special this was. Skip, thanks again.
Yeah,
really appreciate
thank
it,
you.
man.
It's crazy how this thing went full circle, right?
Yeah.
So
All
thanks
right.
for having me.
Thanks to Joseph Jasper and to Luke Leisengang and to Beth Wilkinson for helping produce and making this podcast possible. CVCS Baseball Podcast. We're out.
This episode has been a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools Podcast Network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK through 12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. Be sure to check out, subscribe to, and leave a review of this show and the other shows on our network on your podcast player of choice. Doing so supports the school community in a multitude of ways. For more information about the CVCS Podcast Network or any of our other shows, check out cvcs.org or email podcasts@cvcs.org. On behalf of the whole network, this is Mr. Jasper saying thank you again for listening and stay tuned for more.